Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the southeast. Records are smashed as students across Kent and Sussex receive all-time high A-level and BTEC results. But did teacher assessment lead to grade inflation?
I'm glad it all worked out, especially after such a tough year and a half.
Blamed on climate change, the landslip that's closed one of Kent's busiest train lines and the multi-million-pound repair job now underway.
Generation rents. Thousands of new homes for long-term letting spring up across the southeast as people reject soaring property prices.
And the great outdoors. New centres celebrating southeast beauty spots open their doors to visitors after months in lockdown limbo. Good evening. A-level grades have risen to a record high after formal exams were cancelled for the second year in a row, with a number of top grades awarded in the southeast nearly 6% higher than last year.
Well, all grades are teacher assessed this year after exams were cancelled because of COVID, and students had to cope with multiple lockdowns and remote learning in the most challenging of years.
Some experts have criticised the increase in higher grades for A-levels and BTECs, but the Education Secretary, Gavin Williamson, says it has been an exceptional year and pupils deserve credit for all their hard work. Well, with more on this, here's Abigail Bracken.
Oh my God, I'm so scared.
An A-level results day like no other. For students who've missed so much face-to-face teaching.
How did you do?
I did good.
At Van Dien College in Brighton, it's time to celebrate, with tears of joy for some.
I'm so happy now. I'm so speechless.
More than what we were expecting, I think.
We're just really overexcited.
Yeah. The A-star is a surprise, but yeah, I'm incredibly happy with it.
Students this year have had to cope with multiple lockdowns, repeated isolations and remote learning.
They have done really brilliantly well, and in the face of such adversity, we're particularly proud and inspired by how brilliantly they've done.
And in Kent, grades are up at the Cornwallis Academy in Maidstone.
Yes. Ecstatic.
How did you do?
A in biology, A in maths, and a B in chemistry.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm really happy. Yeah, okay, I'm really happy.
What did you get?
I got A, B. So, I'm really happy with that. Yeah, I'm really happy.
And it's not just here that students are collecting better results. Almost 45% of UK grades are A's or A stars this year, up 6% on last year to a record high. A similar increase was seen in the southeast. All grades are teacher assessed this year, using evidence ranging from mock exams to coursework.
Do you think that this is just grade inflation, or do you really think these students deserve this?
I can only talk internally, of course. I know absolutely that the systems that we employed were rigorous. These students are one of the most able cohorts that we've ever seen come through. I know 100% that the systems we've got in place have ensured that these grades are entirely justified.
It's not a very meaningful concept to try and compare what's happened this year with what's happened in years when exams normally take place. I don't think inflation is a very helpful way of thinking about things. I think what we've got to recognise is that we were asking teachers to make the judgments this year. These judgments are an accurate reflection of what the students have worked at and what they've achieved.
A record 90% of students have been accepted into their first choice of university this year, and clearing is already busy at the University of Kent.
We've had over 100 people applying through clearing already, and some of those people will be people who have got better grades and wanting to take up a different offer, but also some people who might not have got quite the grades they were expecting.
But at Invicta Grammar in Maidstone, where almost 1/3 of students have been awarded straight A star and A grades, students are celebrating their achievements. Abigail Bracken, ITV News, Maidstone.
Well, our social affairs correspondent Christine Alsford is in our newsroom for us now. And Christine, despite these record high grades, there are lots of appeals expected, aren't there?
Yes, there are, and that's because results have been arrived at in so many different ways. However, schools and colleges have had to keep filing cabinets full of test papers and written work that they use to calculate those grades. And it's that work which we'll look at in detail now if pupils claim they've been shortchanged or treated unfairly. Well, it's already been said the bar will be very high to overturn these teacher grades, which have taken literally months to work out. Now, pupils will also be able to resit in the autumn, but those exams are expected to be on the whole syllabus, so not a realistic option perhaps for students who have missed large chunks of learning.
And Christine, for those planning to head off to university in the autumn, will things be back to normal?
Well, confusingly, it does sound as if it will be a mixed picture, with some universities already announcing they're planning to keep lectures online next year. Now, the Education Secretary said today that's not what should be happening.
I want to see all universities going back to face-to-face learning. There's no substitute for actually being in that lecture theatre, listening and being inspired by that lecturer.
Well, many are now calling strongly for tuition fee reductions if online teaching continues, despite the fact all restrictions are lifted. I think we'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming weeks.
I think you could be right. Christine, many thanks. And of course, you can find more on today's top stories in our region throughout the day and evening on our website. Just go to itv.com/Meridian.
Now, be aware of the dangers of open water. That's the warning from West Sussex Fire Service. A group of young people had to be rescued from East Mascalls Lane in Linfield yesterday. One person was injured. The fire service says it's pure luck no one died. It says the recent heavy rain has swollen river levels and rapidly increased the speed of the water, making it impossible to swim safely.
Operation Brock is one step closer to becoming a long-term traffic management option in Kent following a consultation. The movable barrier was designed to prevent severe delays on the M20, the key freight route to and from Dover. The proposal will be debated in Parliament next month.
Investigations are underway into a burglary in East Sussex. Police have released an image of a person they'd like to speak to. A man approached a property on Freshfield Lane in Danehill asking the occupants for cash. When he left, they noticed a CCTV camera was missing from the front of the house.
Visitors to Margate Beach will be able to access a pop-up special treatment centre which will be able to deal with those in need of urgent medical help. The centre will support the local NHS and make sure patients can be dealt with at the right place and as quickly as possible.
Millions of pounds are being spent on a stretch of railway line in Kent to stop potentially devastating landslips.
Network Rail says part of the track near Bearstead has become unsafe because of climate change and the problem has been getting worse.
Well, a 9-day closure of the line between Ashford International and Maidstone East Station is underway, with engineers reinforcing the verges. Well, our reporter James Dunham was given special access to where the work is taking place.
Every pump of this rather large drill brings protection, a modern tool reinforcing this Victorian railway embankment.
This piece of railway is about 170 years old.
Abigail tells me age and the weather have got the better of the cutting, with it becoming too steep and unstable. This work is really crucial.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. We've had a number of failures here over the past few years. Back in 2019, one train was actually disabled, which means it broke when it hit a boulder. So what we need to do is ensure that doesn't happen again. So we're here to secure everything to the cutting.
That should prevent these boulders from crashing down onto the tracks, which could cause a lot of damage. The work taking place on this stretch of railway is complex. It involves over 1,000 rock bolts and over 500 soil nails being secured into the verge to protect the trains that use this track. Until Monday, buses are replacing southeastern trains between Maidstone East and Ashford to help passengers during the 9-day closure.
The alternative is to turn up and do this over a series of weekends. And what that means is more disruption and more noise over a longer period. It also is in reality less efficient for us, and we know that we're spending taxpayers' money to do this work, and we're trying to do it as efficiently and as cost effectively as we can.
Climate change is blamed for the issues not just here in Bearsted but across the southeast. In February, a landslip closed the Tunbridge to Tunbridge Wells line, while last year tracks between Edenbridge and Godstone needed repairing. And for almost 2 weeks this September, trains won't run between Brighton and Hove as land there is stabilised. How much concern is there at the moment about climate change?
Climate change is a big deal for us. We own and operate some of the oldest railway infrastructure in the world, and it wasn't built to cope with the warm, wet weather we're having. So among the things we're doing, we've got a whole load of sensors now along the most vulnerable parts of our railway, which tell us if the Earth's moving or not. We've got what they call convective alert tools, which tell us if there's sudden downpours of rain, which could cause a washout or a flash flood. And we're also looking to the future to work out what other parts of our network might be vulnerable to this, this constant wet weather.
Thanks to the work here, though, the land should remain stable for 120 years. James Dunham, ITV News, Bearsted.
Meanwhile, people travelling on routes between the Sussex coast and London on Sunday are being told to check their journey. Maintenance work is being carried out on the Brighton main line. Passengers are advised not to travel before 2 p.m. unless it's really necessary. Only one train will run every 90 minutes from the capital. There will be trains from Gatwick Airport every hour.
The organisers of Whitstable Oyster Festival have cancelled the food fair element of the event because of concerns about a lack of confidence from traders. Well, the rest of the event is still due to go ahead, with 3 days of activities starting on Saturday, the 28th of August.
An in-depth study of underwater habitats off the Sussex coast is underway. The research led by the University of Sussex aims to track the recovery of kelp forests following the recently implemented trawling ban. Surveys will be carried out annually for 5 years across 34 sites.
Well, you are watching ITV News in the Meridian region. We're very glad you're with us this evening. Lots more to come, including
marking 10 years of the National Citizen Service. It's inspired thousands of teenagers to learn valuable life skills. But was it bankrolled at the expense of other youth projects?
And don't forget, you can also find more on today's top stories in the region throughout the day on our website. All you have to do is go to itv.com/Meridian. You can also give us a call. The number, as always, 0808 1010 095. And you can remember, you can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.
Now, when it comes to choosing somewhere to live, for most people, owning a house is their ultimate goal. But is it a goal which for many is now taking longer to achieve?
Rising house prices are one of the reasons more people are now renting for longer, which is why new build-to-rent developments are springing up in places like Brighton and Maidstone, which offer longer leases.
And many of the apartments are being built with other on-site facilities, including gyms, entertaining spaces and rooms to use when working from home. James Webster will tell us more.
Finding somewhere to live for the group described as Generation Rent hasn't always been easy. They are the under 40s who haven't yet saved enough to buy a house, and instead renting is a long-term plan. People like Danielle, who's a university lecturer. She's just moved into a new flat which she hopes to be in for at least 2 years.
I've changed jobs and I move around the country, and I think for me it's that security as well of knowing that this flat won't be sort of put up for sale, so that's really important.
She's chosen this new build-to-rent development. All the apartments are owned and managed by one company, which aims to lease them long-term rather than sell them.
We offer short-term and long-term tenancies, and we want people to be able to put their roots down, make a home, meet their neighbours, and stay with us for as long as they want.
There are currently more than 57,000 buy-to-rent homes across the UK. Another 36,000 are being built, with almost 95,000 more planned. This estate agent in the south says there are many reasons why such properties are attractive to tenants.
The house builders and developers are looking at the technology that they're putting into the properties. They're looking at the green aspect of it to make it good for the environment there. And you've actually got the security of tenure. You've got that longevity that you can actually feel that you're having your own home and you're building your life there rather than worried that somebody's going to be actually serving notice on you in the next 12 months.
For most tenants, renting somewhere like this will feel very different to a traditional renting experience. You'll manage lots of things on an app on your phone, dealing with any problems with your flat, for instance. The fact is that renting here is supposed to feel very different.
Okay, so we've got our 2-bedroom here.
The apartments themselves can come furnished or unfurnished and don't look very different to those in other traditional developments. What sets them apart is the extra communal spaces that are available. At this block there's also an on-site gym. It's facilities like this that made all the difference to Danielle.
I think the outdoor space is really key. I use the gym and also the co-working space. This was a really big deciding factor.
John Lewis is one of the developers trying to get into the sector, with plans to use space on some of its existing sites to build as many as 10,000 homes across the country. Other developers are building from scratch. The government recommends that a fifth should be affordable homes offered at discounted rents, but there is concern that should be higher.
We think we need to be building about 90,000 new social rent homes every year for at least the next 10 years in order to meet the demand and the need for social housing. And currently we're only building a few thousand a year. So there's a huge need to do more on social housing, and that could sit really nicely alongside more investment and more building of build-to-rent homes.
What would you say to the critics who worry that developments like this could push up the rents all around here?
We have the same concerns, and that's why our starting point is ensuring that the rents we set are comparable to the market, because this only works if the customers are happy, if the buildings are full and people stay.
Build to rent will not solve all the problems of the housing market, but the demand for better long-term lets means it is a sector which will continue to grow. James Webster, ITV News.
And to be fair, internally they're rather smart, aren't they?
Very like living in a hotel.
Exactly.
I think you get room service as well. Must be nice.
Now, this year marks 10 years since the National Citizen Service was launched. The programme has encouraged hundreds of thousands of young people aged 16 and 17 to engage with the local community and learn valuable life skills from cooking, team building, public speaking and first aid to prepare themselves for adult life.
It was the idea of former Prime Minister David Cameron, but questions have now been raised about the use of government money into the scheme. Some critics believe the funds should have been used elsewhere and shared out equally between other youth projects around the country. Well, with more on this, here's Ravneet Nandra.
Schools out for the longest summer of their lives as they finally finish education. But that doesn't stop this bunch learning something new.
I've been doing CPR and I've been doing stuff with the NCS scheme, being a good boy, of course.
You never know when you're going to get into a situation when you may need it, and I think every young person should really know first aid.
The National Citizen Service aims to encourage young people to step outside their comfort zone and meet people from all walks of life.
We're really lucky to be able to put this opportunity on for these young people, especially after the last year. They've missed out on so much key education and the soft skills such as communication and team building and meeting other young people from different backgrounds. So this year and this summer they've really got the opportunity to do that, and we're just really grateful we can support them in such an important time of their life.
To mark its 10th anniversary, this NCS programme in Horsham is focusing on creating positive impacts in their community through learning how to bake and preparing young people for potential further education after a year of isolation for so many.
It's when we get a young people on person on programme, often they're a little bit shy or they're a bit underconfident, maybe a bit anxious. And over the time they're on the NCS, we see this amazing development of that young person, and they grow in confidence and they become really independent. And the feedback I get from parents and from young people is brilliant. Now we get some really great stuff.
And that's what National Citizen Service is all about. That's why I was delighted to launch it today.
The programme was the brainchild of former Prime Minister David Cameron, but it's been criticised for using a large chunk of the government's youth budget every year. Some say the money should be used to fund multiple youth projects across the country.
For any organisation to monopolise the entire governmental budget for young people across the country is quite damning. It's really important that young people have access to support all year round. In particular, there are positive opportunities that are really important for young people's growth and development that can be more short term, but on the whole, you can't have those opportunities where the other provisions are not in place at all.
But NCS say they've reduced its costs and the money they receive is shared amongst other organisations.
There's a bit of a myth that all of the money goes to the trust when that's not the case. In fact, around 90% of the money we get flows to over 120 organisations embedded in their communities, known and trusted by them. So I think there's a lot more we can do to increase that number and increase the amount of money going to them, but that's exactly what we do.
Over 500,000 young people have already graduated from NCS, and after a tough 18 months, learning a new skill could be just the thing to help create a clearer future. Ravneet Nandra, ITV News.
Well, the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. For more, let's head to London now and Charlene White.
Coming up, as A-levels hit record highs, we'll analyse the results and explore the issues raised. Because there's joy as 45% of grades are A stars and A's, but anger as the gap between state and private schools widens. Also ahead, the latest on legal papers in the US that accuse Prince Andrew of sexual assault. And could cricket join the Olympics? The sport bids to take part for the first time since 1900. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Cricket in the Olympics? Well, everything else is. Why not?
Why not, indeed? Something to look forward to. Now, one of the things we've learned over the last 18 months is the value of the great outdoors, particularly when it's not been that easy to make the most of it.
Yes, of course, the lockdown threw a real spanner in the works on two big builds on the coast of Sussex that celebrate some of our very best-loved beauty spots. But despite some delays, they are now both open, as Tony Green has been finding out.
Along the East Sussex coast, we're spoiled with some unspoiled scenery that attracts thousands of visitors each year. But this is Britain. We don't just want to take in the view, we want a cup of tea too. Fortunately, two new centres are now open to offer that and a lot more. Here in Rye Harbour, volunteers are introduced to the new Discovery Centre, which opened up when we were still in lockdown.
This is going to make a fantastic difference to the visitors to Rye Harbour Nature Reserve. It's just going to provide a facility from which people can learn more about the area, and not just about the wildlife, it's about the history of this area with the changing coastline.
Because for many years you were operating out of a temporary building, weren't you?
Yes, we were engaging with many visitors in a tiny little facility, but now we can tell the full story.
There's a classroom for school visits, an interpretation area and toilets to answer the call of nature, and crucially a kettle and a coffee machine to aid communing with nature. Sussex Wildlife Trust has been restoring the salt marsh habitat here after years of the sea being kept out.
One of the birds that does well here is the avocet, which used to be very rare in Britain, but because of projects like this, there's now much more space for them to live.
Half an hour along the coast, there's another new centre at Hastings Country Park. To enhance its environmental credentials, the Bale House, as its name might suggest, is built of straw. It replaces the old visitor centre that was bought 20 years ago as a second-hand allotment shed.
Yes, we wanted it to be exemplar of what can be built in harmony with nature. We wanted to show what sustainable buildings could look like. So inside the majority of the walls are built from straw, and then we have insulation that's natural wool, sheep's wool, and then these beams that you can see, that's local Douglas fir trees. So it's a really great example of sustainable building. We've had quite a few delays on this visitors centre with things like the straw bales getting a little bit damp at some points, and then problems with equipment. But yeah, COVID really threw a spanner in the works. Obviously, we had this bespoke builders coming in who know exactly how to build with straw. So there was an issue about accommodation, where they were going to stay, and then obviously social distancing. So there's been quite a few delays on this centre, but I really feel it's been worth the wait.
We want it to be a place where people feel it's for them. We're going to have schools events, family events, all sorts of conservation volunteering opportunities. This is a chance for future generations to learn about sustainable builds, about the environment, about how we can look after this wonderful world, this planet that we live in, but also connect to the heritage and the nature that surrounds us.
Unless you were local, you weren't supposed to come anyway, but now seems a very good time to refuel and reacquaint ourselves with nature. Tony Green, ITV News, Hastings.
Now, what a difference a day makes. It's been absolutely beautiful out there today. Dare I use the S word for summer?
No.
No, probably best not to. Well, Holly joins us now. Holly, it's been really lovely out there today.
Oh, hasn't it just? Let's take a look. And doesn't it feel about time? Because it has been a bit miserable of late, hasn't it? But of course, yeah, great day for getting out and about. Some of the best of the sunshine into the south coast. There has been a bit of a breeze, but good conditions for getting onto the water. Cooler around the coast, a little bit warmer inland. Lighter winds here, but perfect actually for butterflies who like light winds. They like some sunshine. They like warm weather. So just lovely.
But Holly, you've still got a shower for us.
I have, but it is a shower of a good kind. I'm quite excited about this because the next few nights could be one of the best opportunities for quite some time to view shooting stars. It's all thanks to the Perseid meteor shower. So it peaks over the next few nights, especially into Thursday, but we could see as many as 150 meteors an hour, and the best views are going to be around about midnight and into the early hours. It's thanks to the debris from the comet Swift-Tuttle. And although we get this every summer, because we've got a recently new moon, conditions should be really good for viewing it. And it literally is as simple as finding a dark and comfortable place, looking up at the night sky and enjoying the views. And weather-wise, hopefully we should have good conditions for viewing it as well. Let's take a look at the full forecast. Here we go.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Meridian weather.
Well, it's a reasonable look to things, I think, over the coming days. There will be cloud around at times. You might see scenes a bit like this sent in by Neville in Seaford. But some spells of sunshine, an odd shower or two, but I think a lot of dry weather to be had. Bit of a breeze around perhaps, but overall, I think not a bad look to things. So the bigger picture shows what's going on. We've got weather fronts which are trying to push in from the west, and they sort of butt up against high-ish pressure and peter out. But it makes the detail a bit tricky to forecast because they can just throw in a bit more cloud and possibly a few patchy, showery bits and pieces of rain as well. At the moment, though, it's a largely dry story. We've got some sunshine to end the day and clear skies overhead as we push into the night tonight. Good conditions, of course, for viewing meteors. Some mist and fog, though, could form for tonight, and these are typical values for our towns and our cities, but if you're out in the countryside, expect these numbers to drop a little bit lower. So we start tomorrow morning with some mist and fog early on. I think that will fairly readily lift and clear. And we should see, I think, some nice sunshine, but a bit more cloud does tend to bubble up as the day goes on. I suppose you could see a rogue shower later. We keep this breeze in from a southwesterly direction, especially into coastal areas. And we're talking temperatures away from the coast getting into the low to mid-20s. Our times of high water, we've got Hastings at 1:26 and again at 1:51 as we head into the afternoon. And finally the outlook. So it's a reasonable look to things. Yes, there'll be cloud around. As I say, I couldn't rule out a little bit of showery rain at times, bit of a breeze too, but some spells of sunshine and overall not too bad, hopefully. Have a good evening.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Meridian weather.
Not too bad at all, and no wet dogs or muddy paw prints, which
Summer
would be such
could be
a
on the
plus.
way, you could be right.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope. Now, and just a reminder, the search is still on to find someone to represent our region at the Daily Mirror Pride of Britain Awards.
Yes, of course, it's the glitzy awards night where the stars of the show are so-called ordinary people who've done quite extraordinary things. And it's where this year's National Fundraiser of the Year will be revealed.
So if you know someone who should be named our regional fundraiser and be in with a chance of getting that national title, do let us know. Winners must be aged 16 or over, and entries for individuals only will be considered.
Well, you can head to itv.com/Pride of Britain and follow the links. Now, the closing date for nominations is this Friday, the 13th of August. Full terms and conditions can be found at itv.com/Pride of Britain. So then just a few more days to get your entries in. We would love to hear from you, so do please get in touch with us and nominate your local hero.
Oh yes, we do love this time of the year, don't we? When we hear what's going on, it's lovely. So yeah, do get in touch. Now in just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Stacey Paul's got our late news tonight just after 10:30. Join her if you can. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks for watching, enjoy your evening and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.